Hello, I'm Nobby Clark. Welcome to my workshop. Recently I had an inquiry from a viewer of my channel on my setting up of the DRO on my mini mill. He was asking how I attach the X-axis scale to it. I looked back through the videos I did on the setting up of the various stages of the installation of the Z-axis and the Y-axis, but I realised that on the X-axis I didn't actually show any detail of how the scale was attached. So I thought I'd make this little video especially for him actually on how I did this. It's going to be very difficult to film because it's sort of pretty well hidden under the scale itself, but I'll do my best to show a little bit of detail on how it was attached. So bear with me and we'll see what I can do. This is going to be a little bit difficult to show because of the restricted space here underneath the mill table itself. But starting with the scale, I've actually taken the cover off the scale, and that's attached at each end in exactly the same way, the little screw thread hole here. Now, to get the right amount of spacing that I needed, I cut some little aluminium spacers so that these could be attached to this part of the end of the table here itself. So I drilled and tapped holes into this to attach the spacer, so that I would have something to mount the end of the scale to. When I ordered the scales for this, I tried to measure them as accurately as possible. There was a bit more sort of space for the Z-axis and the Y-axis when I was mounting this, so that I would have more than adequate travel to cover this. So with the X-axis, I very carefully measured this one out, and was very lucky that the scale was available, as you see, in a size that sort of matched, the end mounts matched up pretty exactly to the end of the table itself, and this is exactly the same at the other end of the table. When I test fitted this, I needed a little bit of adjustment to it, and if you can see this, I actually had to mount a little shim in here as well, just to give me that little bit of extra space. So that part was quite easy to attach. The only difficult part was attaching the reader to the base of the mill table itself. Now I'm going to reposition the camera as best I possibly can to try and show you how this was actually attached. What I also needed to do, if I move the camera around here, was attach the leatherette sheet here, which is here to catch any swarf that sort of flies over the back of the mill table itself, and stop it from falling into the mechanism below here. So bear with me just a moment, and I'll try and reposition the camera to show you the mountings below. Now hopefully you'll be able to see this well enough. This part here is the reader, and for this axis the reader is locked in place, and the scale is the part which moves along with the table itself in the X-axis. Now what I had to make up was this aluminium plate here, and you can see just about see one of the screws which mounts it into the base of the mill itself, this part here. Now what I did, I used the existing screw holes that were there, which held the original this cover in place. This replaced a sort of like a concertina type of cover, which eventually fell apart, so I replaced it with this sort of leatherette material. And you can see here the leatherette material is held onto this aluminium plate with this little plate here, so you can actually see that the screw hole positions holding this aluminium plate in place and the bar here holding the leatherette in place are in exactly the same plane. Now it was quite easy really to measure up the aluminium to fit. It all had to be cut and machined so that it would fit in position well, and adjusting the position of the reader so that it runs smoothly in the groove underneath the scale. That's the reason I had to put the little brass shims that I mentioned in position, just to move the scale back slightly to enable this to fit. I'm going to try and see it. If you can see, I'm just, well, you probably can't see, but especially if I bring this back a bit, you can see I'm moving the table along so that runs perfectly smoothly in position. When you attach the scale itself, what you do need to do is make sure everything is perfectly level and square to the table itself, so that there's no danger of anything binding, so that you'll get a sort of a perfect reading as well. Of the three different scales, this actually, although it looks rather complicated, was the easiest one to fit. It just took a bit of planning out, but so the pre-planning on making sure that I ordered the scale exactly in the length that I needed. I didn't want it to extend any further than the end of the mill here, so it wouldn't interfere with any other operations at all. So I'm hoping that my camera work's been good enough so you can actually see how this was attached. Now when I fitted this to the mill, I suppose a lot of other people that have installed their own DROs to their milling machines have confronted with the same problem of actually where to fit the scale. I know with some big machines, for instance like a Bridgeport, because they are so much bigger, there is actually room to fit the scale onto the front of the table itself. But with this milling machine, it's a mini mill, it is so small that there really isn't the space on the front to mount it. For one, it would interfere with the Gibbs screws, and would also, if you can see this, interfere, we probably can't see that terribly well, if I move the table across. Here you have the X-axis lock, and it would interfere with the operation of this as well. So for me, the only option was actually to mount the scale on the back of the table itself. The only downside of this is, of course, that by doing this with the spacers, the scale and the cover, you're losing, or the cover adds a little bit more, you're losing sort of this amount of movement. So this is probably something like about 1.5 inches of movement of the bed in the y-axis, until the scale comes up against the back here. But you know, for me, there wasn't any option. There's no other way really of doing it. So this was in the end probably the best outcome. Before I attached this, I did look through YouTube to see if anyone else had fitted these DRO scales to a mini mill, and there have been quite a few people that have done this. So by watching those videos, I was able to get some tips on how to do it. So overall, the X-axis scale was probably the easiest. The Z-axis here, I mean, that wasn't too bad. It needed some sort of spacers and plates and things fitted in here, but it's something really that you've I guess just got to figure out as you go along, you know, mounting plates so you've got something to mount the scales to, and to give you adequate spacing to attach the scale here to the head of the mill, and similarly on the Y-axis as well. But just with a bit of patience, but you can sort of easily figure this out. So I mean, I hope that's been a useful bit of information for this particular viewer, and anyone else that sees this that may get a bit of help from it. I'm sorry that really when I fitted this I didn't film all of the installation, but the thing is it took me quite a long time to do this, a lot of figuring out and sort of doing it on the run really. There was a lot of taking the scales on and off and on and off to get everything to work correctly, and making all the necessary adjustments. And I did, I think, say in another video I made on fitting the DRO to this, that if I was ever lucky enough to get another bigger milling machine, I'd make sure I buy one that already has the DRO fitted, so that I didn't have to go through this all over again. But now I've got the DRO fitted, it makes the machine so much easier to use now, and it gives me sort of a lot of advantages in being able to work more accurately with the milling machine as well. So there we are. I'll leave it at that, and hopefully have another video for you very, very soon. Obviously, if anyone's got any questions, anything that I could help with, you know, do please put it in the comments, and I'll do my very best to help. Anyway, thanks very much for viewing, and I'll see you very soon. Bye now.